Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahabashai, Bahasham, Barakahak Wadash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahabashai. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone who ruled and teach well. And peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. Shalom. This is the brother Ra'aya with another video. And in this video, I'll be profiling a little bit of this clip from Valuetainment's YouTube channel titled Self-Selection Underway. Fourth Turnings, Neil Howie warns of impending civil war signs. And of course, through biblical prophecy, we know that there will be, a second civil war, civil unrest in the United States of America. And if you just look at the climate of America right now, anywhere people can be divided on, any issue, people are divided on it and are hardline on it. And it's going to go from people throwing words to eventually throwing lead on the streets of America. But I'm going to jump around in this video to hit the main points, but I'm going to start it off at the 57-second mark. And this is a fair use copyright disclaimer. I do not own any of the footage in this clip, nor do I stand to gain from it monetarily. It is simply for educational purposes.
We live in a country that is so split, right? Between, we talk about red zone and blue zone. That's part of it. But it is just so different. You feel like you're moving into a different country, right? And then I'm talking about a 2-hour drive from the outskirts of D.C. up into the hills of West Virginia. So,
and if I can say, it's like that in a lot of states. I'm down here in Louisiana. I live in New Orleans, and this is a highly left liberal city with all manner of freakism going on here. But when you go out to the more smaller towns, or even the majority of the state, it's much more conservative. And again, it's like that in a lot of these states in the United States of America. Your major cities are the more liberal ones, while outside, it's more conservative. And like I just said, people are getting real hardline on their issues out here. And people are especially, concerned with this upcoming presidential election. If we even make it to it, they think that whichever candidate wins, whichever party wins, which, voting at the end of the day is bullshit. Everything's already been predetermined by the elites on who's going to be selected. But for the average person that still believes in this left-right paradigm, they think that whichever party wins and whichever party loses is going to decide the fate of the United States of America, which it doesn't matter, because ultimately America is going to go down in great violence. That's just going to be another, aspect to add to the division, to add to the hate that's going to take place out here on these streets.
When I think bleakly about the internal conflict, that's what I think about. I think about these are two Americas which seem like they're like on opposite ends of the earth.
Yeah, I saw a video of a mother saying, "I feel so unsafe raising my child in Florida. This state is so irresponsible. They're not allowing my child to get puberty blockers at 14 years old." And then I'm like, listen, it's turning into a point where, you're going to have to go to California. That's where you're going to feel the safest. So it's going to become so tribal where if you want welfare and all that, go to California. If you want to be standing on your own 2 feet and being left alone, go to these 7 states. If you want to go start a business.
It's already doing it. The self-selection is already well underway. People are moving to places where, and by the way, if you survey people about who they least want to live around, people on the other end of the political spectrum are the number one most hateful things that people want around. They care less about race, religion. They don't care about anything else so much as having someone on the other end of politics living near them. This is why it's driving.
And race, religion, and all those other, things are just going to be more factors to add in to this civil unrest when this pot in America finally boils over.
This self-segregation locally. And by the way, it's also driving the whole phenomenon of the stolen election. One reason why it's easy to believe in stolen election, this didn't used to be true. You live in more and more landslide counties. You know what a landslide county is a county where, 80% of everyone just votes for one candidate as opposed to the other. What that means is the typical voter, say you vote for Trump in 2020 and Biden wins, and you think, I don't know a single person who voted for Biden. I don't know anyone in my town. I don't know anyone, right? I've never seen anyone talk about Biden. It must have been stolen, right? How can it?
And hey, when people stop believing and having faith in their governments and political institutions, the only thing that comes next is divisions, infightings, violence, and collapse. This is 2 Esdras chapter 15 in the Apocrypha, verse 16. For there shall be sedition among men. And that word sedition means conduct or speech, physical aspects, verbal aspects, conduct or speech inciting open rebellion against a ruling authority or monarch. And what did that guy Neil Howey just say? You're having growing instances of people believing in elections being stolen. That's seditious talk. People no longer believing in their governmental institutions and no longer having faith that that the candidate that so-called won is rightfully there. So what? We're going to have to take things into our own hands, as it's about to say, and invading one another. And you just had that Republican senator from Ohio saying that if Donald Trump isn't selected to be president, it's going to take a civil war to take this country back. They shall not regard their kings nor princes. And your modern day kings and princes are these people in the government, from the mayor to the governor, the senators, the president, the prime ministers, as well as the authorities like the military or the police that uphold the system. It's going to get to a point to where people ain't going to give a shit about a badge, a camouflage uniform, or your governmental status. And the course of their actions shall stand in their power. People are going to get it how they live in that day, and that getting's going to be violent.
It be other than that, right? America didn't used to be that way. We didn't used to be so tribal. We all knew people who voted for someone else. I remember growing up, the neighbor voted for Nixon, the other neighbor voted for Kennedy, right? And the parties weren't that different. Now it's like these total mutually exclusive worldviews, right? This is what scares me, Patrick. And they're living in different communities. They're living in different counties. I don't know if that doesn't worry you. It worries me. But I see where this is going.
It worries you because of what? Why does it worry you?
It worries me because I think this can only have one end has to come out on top. They either have to separate each other, but I don't see any example in history where they peacefully separate. And I don't think either one would accede to a peaceful separation. Either they separate through violence, or they are scared straight into agreeing because we have bigger problems outside.
There's no way that's going to happen.
You heard it from the horse's mouth. Through all my examples I've seen in history, people don't separate peacefully, but through violence. And it's going to be no different with the divided states of America. This is Isaiah chapter 19, verse 2. And I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians. And this isn't talking about ancient Egypt or Mizraim, who were Hamites or so-called Africans. This is talking about modern day spiritual Egypt, as pursuant to Revelation 11, verse 8. The United States of America. And these modern Egyptians are what? These American Edomites, are so-called white people, and they shall fight everyone against his brother. They shall fight, they shall not talk. And everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. Neighbor against neighbor, city against city, state against state. The whole country divided and fighting each other violently. And hey, in the mix, you're going to have all these other heathen nations, as well as you Israelites, or so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans who want to, live the American dream, caught up in this as well. But as the guy just said, only thing I can see happening is these people separating by violence, which violence is assured, or they're going to be scared straight to, unite to get over, common causes, which, hey, the elites are wanting to bring about their NW0, their great RESET, that fourth industrial revolution. So, both of those outcomes are going to happen. There will be divisions and civil unrest in the United States of America, not just due to politics, but what? Economic collapses, food shortages, cyber attacks, people, fighting each other for survival. And then what? The elites bringing that order out of the chaos, resetting the system, bringing about that fully digital, cashless society to where if you want peace and stability again, you're going to have to come into these smart cities we've had set up, and you're going to have to get that RFID/NFC C-hip implant, which is the mark of the BEAST in Revelation chapter 13, verses 16 to 18 in your hand or in your forehead. Hey, as we get closer and closer to the end of all things, these prophecies are speaking louder and louder. But now I'm going to jump. Wait, actually.
Because we have bigger problems outside.
There's no way that's going to happen. There's no way that's going to happen. There's no way that's going to happen. You're going to force. You've read Atlas Shrugged, right? And what eventually happens, where the idea is, the John Galts of the world just kind of want to go live together, right? Where Peter Thiel, did you follow the story about Peter Thiel building his own city on the middle of the water in San Francisco, and how
the water world.
The water, yeah. Have you followed this, Rob, or no? Type in Peter Thiel building his own city. It's going to get to a point where one's going to be like, look, you guys, I can't raise my kids around what you believe in. You feel like you're comfortable walking around outside doing all this stuff? Yeah, I can't be there with you guys. No, and you can't change me. And you think that's normal. I can't change you. You live there. More power to you. The biggest challenge that I notice right now is common sense values and principles are being questioned. And we're questioning what, even this guy, Jonathan Haidt, right? He's talking about in the interview, the Anxious Generation guy who wrote this book. And he says, which types of parents, Rob, do you have that clip I sent you a long time ago about Jonathan Haidt, where he's being asked by the interviewer, which ideology raises less anxious kids? Okay?
Yeah.
Conservative families, I don't know if you've seen this or not.
Yeah, I have. It's girls with progressive parents who are the most effed up.
Effed up, yeah.
At the top. And
and I can attest to that. Some of the women I've dealt with in my life came from progressive households, and they're just too through. The only way they're going to come back, is being recycled into the kingdom.
And
but then he gets asked the questions. He gets asked the question, and he's asked the question saying, so conservatives raise more peaceful kids, less anxiety, all this stuff. Then the interviewer asks him and says, if you, based on your research, see that philosophy and ideology raises better kids, why don't you change your philosophies to that? He says, I can't do that. I'm from academia. That you've never seen this?
No. Wait, he belongs to some sort of guild which dictates.
Oh, now
his
if
point of
you've
view?
never seen it, I have to show it to you. I mean, there's no way I can now not show it
Because
to
he's
you.
from academia.
You've never
Yeah.
seen Rob? I send it to you in text. How do you spell his last name?
Haidt.
No, you got to see this now. No, this is not it, Rob. He's actually being interviewed by this. No, that's not it. I'll find it to you and send it to you. So but the part I'm asking about, even if a guy like that is sitting there doing the research, he's not from the political side. He's on the progressive side. He's on the left. And he also says those values and principles are better to raise a society. What other proof do you need to know that we are gaslighting and confusing the hell out of our kids? So for me to go back to what you're saying, when you say,
And that's how through America is. People can clearly see that this, the social norms they're pushing now with just this, liberal, do as thou wilt, alphabet, lifestyle out here, feminism, all the, this selfish nihilistic mindset. You can clearly see, single motherhood. We could be here for days listing examples. We can clearly see that these things aren't conducive to a healthy functioning society. But due to politics, people are committing, societal suicide to die on that hill. So there's no way America's coming back. And as it says in Mark chapter 3, verses 24 to 25, and if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand, which we can clearly see the United States of America is divided. What he just saying in that clip, people are so divided that it's like two different Americas, and it's from a 2-hour drive between two different cities. And that in a poll, when people are asked what are the types of people you don't want to live by, it's those that are at the opposite end of your beliefs and politics that are the most hated. And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. And we can clearly see the house or the race of these Edomites are divided. Some want to go back to that, make America great again spirit, and some want to keep going forward on this, liberal death ride, so to speak, to the point to where, again, people can clearly see and through data that the current way America's going and the lifestyles that are being pushed are further leading to this country's collapse. But because they're so divided and want to, root for their team, so to speak, hey, they're ready to ride this thing till the wheels fall off. But now I'm going to jump to the 10-minute and 58-second mark.
That's right. But it was completely unlike today, right? That's what when I talked earlier about these mutually irreconcilable. There's a great essay written in 1940. Carl Becker is a great intellectual historian. He wrote a book called the Heavenly City of the 18th Century Philosophers, one of my all-time favorites. Anyway, a great intellectual historian. He wrote a book near the end of his life in 1940. This is when the world was going to hell, right? Everyone could see it. I mean, how many democracies had fallen in Europe to the fascists? Stalin was going great. I mean, it was a terrible time in the world. It was before Pearl Harbor. We could all see what was going. And he wrote a very dark essay on democracy. And he said something I think really interesting. He said, and I think this gets to your point. He said, democracies work best when there isn't much to talk about. Meaning, democracies work best when the only thing you're talking about with your neighbors is the size of the sidewalks and what kind of gauge sewer line to put in, and, just coordination.
And when I was growing up, my parents always told me, the two things you never talk about with people is politics and religion, which are the two main things to talk about, because that deals with what? How a society functions, family values, life values, the most important things in life. But if you're not talking about that, what are you talking about? Bullshit. Sports, fashion, food, traveling, your little interests here or there, things of no substance. So when it actually comes to the point to where we're in a societal collapse and people have to talk about these issues, people are confronted with very core issues that they just can't budge on, because they believe that if they do budge on it, their way of life is going to collapse and there's going to be no future for them or their children. So what's going to be the next step? We're going to fight for it. I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, brother against brother, neighbor against neighbor, sedition among men.
That's my point.
You agree, but isn't that interesting?
No,
and he made the point, he said, when people disagree on fundamental values, again, he said this in 1940, he said, democracy can't work because no one is going to change your entire life because you won only 49% of the vote, right? You see what I mean?
In these uncertain times,
and if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. And as we can clearly see, the United States of America is really the divided states of America. And it's only a matter of time before this whole house of cards comes collapsing down. So that's it with this video. And with this video, I hope you sincere Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong. As we can clearly see, we are almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharallah, and until next time, Shalom.